Ladies and gentlemen, let us please welcome the arrival of the President of the Republic of Seychelles, Mr. Wavell Ramkalawan. Let us please remain standing for the national anthem of the Seychelles. Thank you to the National Choir for this rendition of the national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, you may please be seated. President of the Republic of Seychelles, Mr. Wavell Ramkalawan, Vice President of the Republic of Seychelles, Mr. Ahmed Afif, Commissioner of the Anti-Corruption Commission of Seychelles, Ms. May da Silva, Commonwealth Secretary General, the Right Honourable Patricia Scotland, Speaker of the National Assembly, Ministers, Leader of Government Business in the National Assembly, British High Commissioner to the Seychelles, Attorney General, Commissioner of Police, Chief of the Seychelles Defence Forces, Head of the Public Sector Governments in the Commonwealth Secretariat, Dr. Roger Corentin, Chairperson of the Constitutional Appointments Authority, Chairman of the Electoral Commission, Auditor General, Ombudsman, Chairperson of the Human Rights Commission, Secretary General of the Seychelles National Institute for Culture, Heritage and the Arts, Governor of the Central Bank, Excellencies, Principal Secretaries, Chief Executive Officers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all, and welcome to the Seychelles for the 13th Commonwealth Regional Conference for Heads of Anti-Corruption Agencies in Africa. My name is Darrell, and it is a pleasure to be your host for this opening ceremony. Thank you for joining us here at the Savoy Resort, where over the course of the week, you will be working together under the theme Uniting Commonwealth Africa in the Fight Against Corruption. Without further ado, I have the pleasure to invite the Commissioner of the Anti-Corruption Commission of Seychelles, Ms. May da Silva, to deliver the welcoming remarks.
Good morning, everyone. President of the Republic of Seychelles, Mr. Wavell Ramkalawan, Vice President of the Republic of Seychelles, Mr. Ahmed Afif, Commonwealth Secretary General, the Right Honourable Patricia Scotland, Speaker of the National Assembly, Ministers, Leader of Government Business in the National Assembly, British High Commissioner to the Republic of Seychelles, the Attorney General, Commissioner of Police, Chief of Defence Forces, Head of Public Sector Governance in the Commonwealth Secretariat, Dr. Roger Corentin, Chairperson of the Constitutional Appointments Authority, Chairman of the Electoral Commission, Auditor General, Ombudsman, Chairman of the Human Rights Commission, Governor of the Central Bank of Seychelles, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Bonjour. Bonjour. Welcome. Bienvenue to our 13th annual conference of Commonwealth Africa Anti-Corruption Heads Conference, which is being hosted here in our beautiful Seychelles Islands. We are a group of small islands off the east coast of Africa, whose umbilical cord was cut off from its African motherland millions of years ago. Some of our beaches on the west coast are similar to those in Mombasa, Zanzibar, or Barazuto Island in Mozambique. Thank you for traveling from the mainland to the host country of this year's Commonwealth Africa Anti-Corruption Conference. Our theme this year is Uniting Commonwealth Africa Against Corruption. Firstly, let us unite in recognizing one of our Commonwealth colleagues, who I am sad to say experienced corruption fighting back. Last year, on the 9th of December, on the occasion of the UN International Anti-Corruption Day, I announced to participants at our forum that I stood with my Commonwealth sister, Martha Chizuma, who was arrested for doing her job as head of Anti-Corruption Bureau, Malawi. I am so happy to see that Martha has joined us today, and I invite you all to give her a round of applause. Martha, where are you? Is Martha here? She's not arrived? Oh, here's Martha. Martha, please stand. In September 2020, for the virtual Commonwealth Anti-Corruption Conference, I stated in my speech that there is a set of unwritten criteria for heads of anti-corruption agencies. When we take on this role, I would like to repeat those criteria for those who did not have an opportunity to hear it. Martha, I am sure this will resonate with you. Firstly, you have to have thick skin, very thick skin. And that skin should be like a duck's back. And you have to have eyes at the back of your head. And to quote Professor Franceschi of the Commonwealth Secretariat, be prepared to be the sacrificial lamb. This is why the theme Uniting Commonwealth Africa Against Corruption is so important. It is important for us to fight corruption, but it is equally important for us to unite when corruption fights back. Let us unite in sharing our experience, our skills, and resources. This can be achieved through partnership amongst anti-corruption agencies and our international partners who will assist in any way they can. This week, we have the honor to hear from our partners in policy making and law enforcement from the UN, the UK, the USA, the Commonwealth Secretariat, UNODC, the International Anti-Corruption Coordination Center in NCA UK, Federal Bureau of Investigation, World Bank Group, Transparency International, Serious Fraud Office, and many others. There are plenty of opportunities in the next 5 days to strengthen your networks in order to unite in the fight against corruption. Work hard, but please do enjoy your time in this beautiful part of Africa. I thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Ms. De Silva. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasure to introduce to you now our conference coordinator, Dr. Roger Corentin, who is the head of public sector governance at the Commonwealth Secretariat in the UK. Thank you for being here with us today, Doctor, and I'm pleased to invite you to give us an overview of what we can expect for the conference this week.
Just a moment. See my papers. Thank you, Mr. MC. I'll call you Darren. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Seychelles, Honorable Commonwealth Secretary General, Your Excellencies, I would like to say all protocol observed, because sometimes where I come from, if you crucify the names, you have to produce either a cattle or a goat. So I don't want to crucify the name, so pardon me. But I would like to say good morning to you all, and I would like also to say thank you for honoring our invitations to be here with us today. My deepest appreciation, really, is to the President of the Republic and also my own boss, Honorable Patricia Scotland, which the name as for that I can pronounce because I'm so familiar with that name. Is the Commonwealth Secretary General, for managing against all odds to be with us here today. Because he need not to be here. And I'm wondering how he managed to get here. Because he's so tight. But because of the love he has for first Seychelles and also for the Commonwealth heads of anti-corruption agencies, against all odds, at least he could be here this weekend and up to this evening. Then he has to go back. Thank you for coming, Secretary General. And also to acknowledge the team of the Secretary General, my good brother, Sares Udath, who is the Deputy Head of the Secretary General's Office, and Amy Coles, who is the Communication Officer, Media and Public Affairs of the Commonwealth Secretariat, United Kingdom. For me, it is always a joy to visit Seychelles, an archipelago of 115 islands in the Indian Ocean. It is a home to numerous beaches, coral reefs, hoping that the climate change will stay away so that we still enjoy our coral reefs in Seychelles. And nature reserve. Because I see that all the travels I've done within the Commonwealth, when I get to Seychelles, it's different. It is clean, it is lush, it is peaceful. God's own country, Seychelles. It's also the home for very rare animals, particularly the great tortoise that I always excited to see. Ladies and gentlemen, I recall exactly 13 years ago when I sent invitations, letters to all anti-corruption agencies in the Commonwealth of Africa, inviting them to our very first conference at Pakalani Golf Estate Hotel in Gaborone, Botswana. That conference gave birth to our association, the Association of Anti-Corruption Agencies in Commonwealth Africa, which was inaugurated by the then President of Botswana, His Excellency Seretse Khama Yankama. Interestingly, the host of this first conference, held in 2011, is the then Director General of Botswana, Directorate on Corruption and Economic Crime, Rose Nuhu Seretse, who is here with us today. So, Rose, you are most welcome. You deserve a very good round of applause. Rose, thank you for giving birth to our association. The Commonwealth Secretariat over the past 13 years has taken the association conferences to interesting places on the continent. From the Gaborone in Botswana, to Livingstone Victoria Falls in Zambia, to Port Louis in Mauritius, Accra in Ghana, the Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, Swakopmund in Namibia, Munguchi Lake Victoria in Malawi. Then we have the Federal Capital State of Abuja, Nigeria. We have the Kampala in Uganda. And of course, last year we were in Kigali in Rwanda. And presently, we are in Seychelles. This indicates how far we have traveled. As a vibrant association which enabled us to explore our own continent, even as we share experiences, best practices, and solutions in the fight against corruption. It is also instructive to note that just as we started with the President of Botswana opening our first conference, in almost all our conferences, we have been honored to have the presidents of our countries everywhere we have hosted the conference to come and open our conference. And therefore, we are again honored to have His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Seychelles, to be with us this morning. A significant part of the Commonwealth mandate is to help member countries face up to corruption and to tackle the destructive impact. And here, I will quote the CHOGM mandate in 2015. And I'm sure the 2015 is when also we have our excellent Secretary General of all times being appointed. So that mandate, she carried that mandate from that Malta 2015. And I'll quote what the CHOGM, that's the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting 2015. The mandate says, I quote, "Corruption is a significant challenge facing the world today. We agreed to work together to strengthen international, regional, and national responses to corruption, including through enhanced transparency and collaboration among anti-corruption agencies. The Commonwealth Secretariat is doing an important work to address corruption, and this should be strengthened in the future." Quote ended. That was the CHOGM mandate. So I wasn't surprised that when the Secretary General took office, the first few weeks, she organized the biggest conference ever called the London Summit, where the whole world came to London to discuss about anti-corruption. And there, the Secretary General had a vision to share. I will end here because she's here. She has to say what she said for all of us to see, to hear. Our determination to build a long-standing support to our member countries led to the establishment of the regional network linking all national anti-corruption agencies in the Commonwealth, Africa, which we now call the Association of Commonwealth Anti-Corruption Agencies in Commonwealth Africa. The focus of the strategy is simple, regional. And because more can be achieved and impact sustained by working together as a regional body. Since the creation of the Association of Anti-Corruption Agencies in Commonwealth Africa in 2011, the association has provided a unique platform for sharing emerging practices and country innovations in the light against corruption and the promotion of good governance in the Commonwealth Africa. The association has promoted collaboration and learning by brokering the exchange of best practices and helping to benchmark agencies' capabilities while facilitating peer review and secondment between and among agencies. The regional network, or the association, is built on the unquestioned Commonwealth comparative advantage in the development sphere, which is our convening power. The Commonwealth Secretariat's ability to bring people and countries together to share developmental experiences and identify best fit solutions is the Commonwealth unique niche. The Commonwealth Secretariat has worked to provide targeted assistance to Commonwealth nations. The Secretariat has been able to achieve providing practical training and development support to national anti-corruption agencies. Now, this capacity building role was enhanced and complemented when 25 February 2013, the Commonwealth Secretariat partnered the government of Botswana and established the Commonwealth Africa Anti-Corruption Center in Botswana, which reaffirms the Commonwealth Secretariat commitment to support member countries to fight this canker or menace called corruption. This week conference offers an experience sharing opportunities for all heads of anti-corruption agencies in the Commonwealth Africa to share innovative experiences and best practice and to learn from each other. The general objective of this conference is to bring together anti-corruption agencies in Commonwealth Africa, relevant international organizations, as enlisted by the Commissioner of the Anti-Corruption Commission in Seychelles. These partners to share and learn lessons for fighting corruption on the continent. To achieve this end, every head of anti-corruption agency has to present to the conference an innovative project done in the fight against corruption in their country, call it success stories. The conference will be enhanced by sharing of country, regional, and international experiences by international organizations and experts working in Africa and beyond, and to offer anti-corruption agencies the opportunity for international collaboration and cooperation. There is no gainsaying that an effective approach to make institutions effective is to establish a community of practice, build professional network, and create opportunities for members to exchange best fit solutions. In terms of the conference overview, the conference program is in 3 or 4 parts, I may say. These are the opening ceremony, 3.5-day technical sessions, then we have the annual general meeting, and of course we have the sightseeing. The opening ceremony, I must say the sightseeing is quite exciting. The opening ceremony set the tone for the conference as we receive welcome messages from our host, the Commissioner, Seychelles Anti-Corruption Commission. Then the conference will have the opportunity to receive the special guest address that will be delivered by the Right Honorable Secretary General of the Commonwealth. The highlights of the conference will be the keynote address and the declaration of the opening of the conference by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Seychelles. After which, the Executive Director, Economic and Organized Crime Office, Ghana, will honor us with a vote of thanks. Then the technical sessions. That will take 3.5 days, where the conference business will be conducted. These comprise of country reports, expert presentations, question and answer sessions, and networking during in and out of sessions. I wouldn't go through the topics that will be discussed. We have the program with us so we can look at the topics that will be discussed. But the important point is that there will be individual anti-corruption agencies' country report that will complete the technical session. Then we have half of day 4 is devoted to the sightseeing and the realization after the 4 days hard work. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Is he still a boy? I think this time I heard it long ago, so by now Jack should be very old. So there will be a half day reserved for sightseeing to explore the pristine beauty of Seychelles, which I am enthusiastically looking forward to. Day 5, ladies and gentlemen, will be the annual general meeting of the association. The annual general meeting is the final part of the conference program, where the heads of the anti-corruption agencies will discuss issues of interest to the association, select the country to host the next conference, and issue the conference communique. At this juncture, I have the honor to thank you, Your Excellency President of the Republic of Seychelles, for finding time out of your very busy schedule to open this conference this morning. Thank you, sir, for coming. The presence of the Secretary General of the Commonwealth at this meeting reaffirms her commitment to support member countries' anti-corruption effort to root out systemic corruption at both national and international levels. She has never missed our annual conferences for the past 7 years. No matter how tight her schedule is, she is keen and committed to assist the anti-corruption agencies to achieve meaningful and long-lasting effect to combat or effort to combat corruption and to enhance good governance on the continent. So, Secretary General of the Commonwealth, on the behalf of our association, I wish to thank you sincerely for your dedication, commitment, and continued support to the anti-corruption efforts on the continent. Thank you, Madam. I would like to take this opportunity, therefore, to thank Commissioner of the Anti-Corruption Commission in Seychelles, Mil de Silva, for your leadership, hands-on approach to pull this conference off in the most outstanding manner. Thank you, May, for being the driving force behind this conference. I cannot conclude without acknowledging the efficient and effective work put together by indefatigable team made up of Dennis, Mark, Orestina, for leading the organization of this conference. Right from last year's conference in Rwanda, when Seychelles was tasked with the responsibility of hosting this year's conference, this dream team has worked with me day and night. Sometimes I call them, because London time is 3 hours. Sometimes I forget that it's midnight here. So I'll be calling when they are sleeping. They work day and night to deliver this conference. Oresina, sorry for putting you under intense pressure sometimes. Oresina, sorry for that. But your calm personality and composure is a blessing. Because under intense pressure, Orestina will stay calm, which I find it amazing. I promise you, Orestina, I will not fight you again. Claudia, Lucy, and Anna, who traveled all the way from Botswana to join the team, thank you for your help and assistance. Finally, I would like to thank you, all the heads of anti-corruption agencies, and all the invited guests who have traveled far and near to be here and have worked together to build this incredible, formidable community of practice in Africa. Our conference format is unique because this is the only conference where we make sure every anti-corruption agency do a presentation and chair sessions. Every agency is an active participant in our conference because the conference is for anti-corruption agencies. There's no passenger here. Everybody is active. Either you are presenting or you are chairing. So that we don't want to have a situation where you come to the conference, you just sit for 1 week, you don't say anything and you go back. Next time when we invite you, you wouldn't come. So we make sure that everybody is active. And that's why for the past 13 years, we have almost always getting between 95% to 100% participation. Nobody fails to come because they all look forward because they will be an active participant. Thank you, heads of Anti-Corruption Agency. My hope and prayer is that this association will grow from strength to strength as we strive to control and reduce corruption on our dear continent. I look forward to this exciting conference, and I thank you so much for your time and attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Corenting. It is my honor to now invite our special guest, the Right Honorable Baroness Patricia Scotland, the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, to deliver her remarks for this morning.
My dear friend, President of the Republic of Seychelles, Mr. Wavell Ramkalawan. You see, I am bold and brave. And Vice President of the Republic of Seychelles, Mr. Ahmed Afif. Commissioner of the Anti-Corruption Commission, Seychelles, Ms. May de Silva. But really, I want to say, my friends, because say kai mwe. As we would say in Dominica, this is my place, and I'm very, very proud to be home. I really want to greet you all, because it's good to be back in Seychelles again, and so good to be with all of you. This is a very important moment for all of us, and we know that the world is in a difficult and challenging place. And therefore, I think it's never been more important that we come together, the heads of the corruption agencies, the delegates here from other international organizations, and all our friends and colleagues. We've never needed that friendship more than we do today. And as we collaborate and encourage one another in the spirit of Commonwealth goodwill and mutual support, this gathering is of immense importance for the joined-up anti-corruption work. I remember saying that we are constantly fighting those who conspire against us, and it is our opportunity to bind together and create a conspiracy of our own, the conspiracy of the just. And our present circumstances, with social and economic resources increasingly overstretched, and pressures being faced by all our governments and our people, making building integrity more important than ever. So I think it's probably important for us just to remind ourselves in simple terms of the scale of the challenge we face. The UN calculates that the global cost of corruption is $3.6 trillion each year. The global proceeds from criminal activities are estimated at between 1 trillion and 1.6 trillion per year. Every year, $1 trillion is paid in bribes, while an estimated 2.6 trillion are stolen annually through corruption, a sum equivalent to more than 5% of global GDP. In developing countries, according to the United Nations Development Programme, funds lost to corruption are estimated at 10 times the amount of official developmental assistance. Corrupt money associated with bribes received by public officials from developing and transition countries is estimated at $20 billion to $40 billion per year, a figure equivalent to 20 to 40% of flows of official development assistance, ODA. Just think about what we could do with that money if it was put into the legitimate hands of our governments. It is estimated that Africa loses more than $50 billion a year to illicit flows, and that over the past 50 years, Africa has lost more than 1 trillion, equivalent to all the official development assistance received during the same period. According to Africa Growth Initiative, whilst between 1980 and 2018, sub-Saharan Africa received nearly 2 trillion in foreign direct investment and official development assistance, it discharged over 1 trillion in illicit financial flows. And the whole of Africa bled an aggregate $1.3 trillion of illicit financial flows during the same period. This is enough money to lift the poverty threshold, the 1.4 billion people who get by on less than $1.25 a day, and to keep them there for at least 6 years. Transparency International states that corruption costs health, the sector, $500 billion every single year. And this is more than the amount needed for worldwide universal health coverage. And I'm going to leave here to go to the World Health Assembly in Geneva. And one of the things we'll be talking about is how do we get enough money to deliver universal health coverage and basically save the lives of so many of our people. Well, we know one of the ways to get that money is interdicting this illicit flow. Every $100 million lost to corruption could fund full immunization for 4 million children, or provide water connections for some 250,000 households. Whilst we tend to think of corruption in purely monetary terms, the truth is that it costs us the quality of our lives. It's not a victimless crime. Corruption is a serious crime which can undermine social and economic development in all of our societies. No country, no region, no community is immune, and the damages it causes to education, health, justice, democracy, prosperity, and development. And it is one of the biggest impediments to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. We cannot emphasize enough the view that the success of all other SDGs depends crucially on getting to grips with the corrosion of corruption. And we must be clear that globally the amount of money lost through corruption is equal to the amount of money we need to successfully implement the SDGs. If you look at the money we need and the money we have, the sum equivalent between those two is that which is siphoned off. And that is why the Sustainable Development Goal 16 incorporates specific targets relating to reducing corruption, bribery, and illicit financial flows. And the COVID-19 pandemic created many challenges, including an environment which was ripe for embezzlement, false claims, kickbacks, and other forms of corruption. So we now join together in an urgent call for for countries to take stock and put in place mechanisms to prevent such corrupt practices during such emergencies, principally by developing a common framework. So tackling corruption must be a priority of the highest order if we are in earnest about achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, and we are. Doing so brings multiple benefits. Poverty is reduced, economic stability and growth are increased, and standards of living raised. This is why this conference is of immense importance for the African region and for the wider Commonwealth. This makes the theme for our conference as urgent as it is appropriate, uniting Commonwealth Africa in the fight against corruption. So we all need to take swift and decisive action to improve transparency and accountability, and to build confidence that our institutions and systems are corruption-free. Together, we can work towards a whole-of-government approach, an approach which can allow us to examine how tax authorities, anti-money laundering authorities, and anti-corruption agencies can collaborate to solve this monumental challenge, and an approach which can enable international collaboration to track ill-gotten money and following through more opaque jurisdictions. The Commonwealth Secretariat has been active in providing practical, technical assistance and development support to help national anti-corruption agencies build their effectiveness in dealing with corruption. And we use a three-pronged approach, which involves research, capacity building, and networking. And we deliver this approach through a strategy of establishing regional anti-corruption agency networks in training centres, facilitating closer cooperation and learning towards attaining the SDG 16. And these networks promote collaboration and the exchange amongst member countries of best practice and practitioners. And they also assist with peer review and with measuring capabilities and agencies against vital benchmarks. And yesterday, we had an opportunity for our heads of agencies to start that conversation. And I have to tell you, it was a vibrant and important discussion. And I was very sorry, am very sorry indeed, that I am not going to be able to participate. But I was very proud and pleased to have that conversation last night. And as a former Attorney General, can I tell you that I am so proud to be your co-conspirator. And if anyone wants to come and arrest me, they can try. The Association of Anti-Corruption Agencies in Commonwealth Africa, as you've heard from Roger Karatang this morning, was created by the Commonwealth Secretariat in 2013. But since then, we have seen a clear strengthening of these institutions as a direct result of the collaboration this network has encouraged and facilitated. And I want to take this moment, if I may, just to thank each and every head of the corruption agency, both here present and those who cannot be with us, because the courage, the fortitude, the determination, the acuity that you have all shown is a true inspiration which enables the rest of us to believe that this fight can be won. And so, as you fight, know that we all, as May indicated, stand with you. Annual meetings of the association have been opportunities for capacity building, peer-to-peer learning, and for benchmarking. But the most important thing that happens is it's an opportunity to build resilience, to build friendship, to build fortitude, to shore up determination, and so that those who feel often that they are totally alone know that they are not. And having the support of our presidents, as we do today, is a real reassurance that the work that we are doing for all our countries is supported at the highest level by our presidents and our prime ministers. And I am delighted that right in the front, leading this march in Seychelles, is the President himself, supported by the Vice President, supported by the Attorney General, and ministers here present. And so I thank you warmly and sincerely for your total commitment to this fight. And working with the government, we have established a Commonwealth Anti-Corruption Centre in Botswana, about which you've heard, and I'm glad that my sister from Botswana sits closest to us, to enable the delivery of the key capacity building programs for anti-corruption agencies across Commonwealth Africa. And our Commonwealth anti-corruption work program demonstrates our collective determination to eradicate the scourge of corruption, and it has achieved global recognition under the leadership of Dr. Roger Karatang, who is the head of the public sector governance, through a series of global awards. Now, his latest international awards was the Fighting Corruption Award given to him this year by Themis. And Themis International Awards recognizes those who are going above and beyond their work in combating financial crime across the world. And our congratulations go to Roger and his team. But can I say that, as he has made clear, he would have been able to achieve nothing without you. So I think we should all give you a clap for allowing him to get the award. Now, we really are encouraged by the glowing testimony from the heads of anti-corruption agency across our Commonwealth family. We are proud that we are able to stand with you, and we are proud that the work we're doing together is making a difference and trying to make it just a little easier and lighter for you to do your work. And these reflect our commitment to be a fulcrum of best practice, and our commitment to providing this special Commonwealth blend of leadership, cooperation and assistance, which brings to our members across every continent and ocean in the spirit of collective action. And we're pleased and proud that 2 more countries joined us in Kigali. That is Togo, who are with us today, and Gabon. And they came to us because they like what our family is doing and they want to be part of it. And they are, all of our groups are unique, because this first intervention in the world, which connects the key areas of public and private conduct. And I want to talk about our anti-corruption benchmarks, because these anti-corruption benchmarks has shown leadership, cooperation and assistance, and it really shines out as being unique. Our 22 benchmarks support public and private stakeholders in their efforts to create more robust incentives for both the public and private sectors to undertake anti-corruption measures. It's the first time that public and private have been brought together. And this holistic approach we know is going to be vitally important because they cover issues from sanctions for corruption offences to investigating and prosecuting authorities, and from political lobbying to disclosure of asset ownership. And they help governments to achieve transparency and good governance in very practical areas of application by highlighting the importance of companies in becoming compliant in fighting this harmful practice. They're consistent with international standards, but they go further in covering other areas of concern not previously addressed. And we are fully committed to working with all of you to maximise the impacts and the benefits of this vital tool. As we move beyond the halfway mark in achieving the SDCs, there is an urgent need for all governments to put in place effective execution monitoring and evaluation for SDG implementation. The Commonwealth SDG implementation toolkit supports countries and policy gap analysis, and with integrating the SDG planning into national development agendas and tracking monitoring results. So collaboration based on the needs and perspectives of all members of our diverse family of nations is central to our Commonwealth approach. And we draw together countries at almost every stage of social, economic, and political development, including some of the smallest and poorest, and some of the largest and richest, including the G20 members. And we are pioneering fresh approaches which harness the transformational power of technological development, partnering with Intel to develop training in artificial intelligence for public sector leaders, which can help to develop automated warning systems where there is a corruption risk in sensitive procurement, in conflict of interest. And these systems, which were unimaginable before and which are now possible, could help to constrain corruption and save billions of dollars of development. Uniting in a spirit of goodwill and mutual support, the similarities of our systems and institutions enable lessons learnt in one setting to be shared, adapted and used elsewhere, so that the benefits of progress can be enjoyed more swiftly and for the good of all. I've said before that if one of us spends a penny, a dollar, a pound, a rupee, then let's make sure that no other member of our family has to spend the same dollar, pound, or rupee. Let's bind together and spend better. And by sharing the knowledge of what has worked and understanding better what has not, we can help everyone to move in the right direction with principled, practical, effective, and forward-thinking action. And we must continually raise the standards we set for ourselves, whether through mutual support and encouragement amongst the anti-corruption agencies or our member nations, or by working together to develop Commonwealth anti-corruption benchmarks. The interdependence of our countries, communities, people, and institutions lies at the very heart of that the Commonwealth brings to our world. It includes the work of this 13th Commonwealth Regional Conference of Heads of Anti-Corruption Agencies in Africa. And my friends, we face real and complex challenges, but together we are more than equal to them. So let us work together with renewed vigour in hope and harmony to bring health, wholeness, security and prosperity to our Commonwealth. I know that we can do this because we've done it before and we can do it again. And I give you our total commitment that we will walk with you through this whole journey, and unfortunately for you, we will never let you out of our sights. So I wish you a happy and fruitful conference. We would say in home, bon chance, but we know we don't need luck because we have faith in each other and we have friendship. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary General, for this very insightful and inspiring address. Ladies and gentlemen, our ceremony this morning started with the national anthem, which was performed by the Seychelles National Choir. Let us now welcome back to the stage the Seychelles National Choir, who have two more numbers for our entertainment. They will first sing for us Isola Bella, which translates to Our Beautiful Islands, a classical homage to the beauty and wonder that is the Seychelles. This will be followed by Zoué Salon Musique, originally written by Mr. Patrick Victor, a more upbeat and playful rhythm that will give you a taste of the vibes of the Seychelles music. We are joined today by the choir members who are under the direction of Mrs. Xiaozhu Laonam. Thank you once again to the National Choir and Mrs. Launam for those lovely performances. I now have the honor to invite the President of the Republic of Seychelles, His Excellency Mr. Wavell Ramkalawan, to deliver the keynote address and officially open the conference. Mr. President.
Well, I'm not too sure after such beautiful rendition of some of our local music, whether we should not be having a cocktail instead of me delivering a speech. I would love to follow in the words of our dear brother, Mr. Roger Quarantine. I hope I don't owe you a giant tortoise. No, okay, that's fine. In saying all protocol observed, but I must recognize the presence of the Vice President, the presence of the Commissioner of our Anti-Corruption Commission, Ms. May de Silva, our Secretary General of our Commonwealth, Baroness Patricia Scotland, my dearest friend, the Speaker of the National Assembly, and all you distinguished guests. But of course, you who are the heads of the various agencies, you who do the hard work, again, I want to say to you, welcome to the Seychelles. Allow me first of all to say how grateful and how I want to thank the Commonwealth in collaboration with our own ACCS in having chosen Seychelles for this most important conference. We are here as the regional conference of heads of anti-corruption agencies in Commonwealth Africa. Seychelles is indeed proud, as this is in itself a testimony, a recognition of what we stand for as a country and how we want to promote a corrupt-free Africa, and by so doing, a corrupt-free world. It is therefore an immense pleasure and honor for me to stand here among the people who strive daily to ensure that the wealth of our countries are not siphoned off, but rather oversee that every cent and all resources go towards building the nation and in the welfare of our people. It is an added pleasure to welcome you, my dear sister, Patricia, to the Seychelles, back to the Seychelles. And I know you have very fond memories of the Seychelles ever since you spent your honeymoon in our beautiful islands, a secret that everybody now knows. I know you feel at home among the coconut trees and the sandy beaches. So again, feel welcomed amongst us. And I'm very happy that in the midst of your busy schedule, you could find the time to come to the Seychelles, spend a weekend with us, and of course encourage all our heads of the anti-corruption agencies. An equally warm welcome, of course, to our brother, Dr. Roger Corentin, the Secretariat's advisor and head of public sector governance. I want to thank you both for your hard work and dedication for our Commonwealth family. We will always have the welcome mat laid out for you whenever you decide to come to our shores. I am delighted that you have chosen the island of Mahe to address the conference theme of Uniting Commonwealth Africa in the fight against corruption. It is a privilege for us to have such distinguished guests from Botswana, the Gambia, Ghana, Kenya, Malawi, Mauritius, Namibia, Nigeria, Rwanda, Sierra Leone, South Africa, Uganda, the United Republic of Tanzania, and Zambia. In particular, I welcome the heads of anti-corruption agencies of Togo and the Gabon, who are attending their first meeting of heads of anti-corruption agencies for Commonwealth Africa today. Last year, I was amongst those in Rwanda who voted for those two new countries to be members of our Commonwealth family. So in Creole, I would say, in Creole, I say to you all, bienvenue de Seychelles. Welcome to the Seychelles. To our absent brothers and sisters from the Cameroon, Lesotho, the Kingdom of Eswatini, and Mozambique, we are indeed sorry that you are not able to join us in the room this week. Your contributions will be sorely missed, but I trust that technology will indeed fill the gap. You will be with us in spirit. If Seychelles is anything to go by, being the heads of anti-corruption agencies in Africa must be the most unenviable position. Your role within your units are tireless, your work scrutinized constantly, and even being exceptional is never good enough. I therefore want to express my profound gratitude for the hard work you do for your country, and I wish you added courage in the face of all adversity. Fighting those who have all the financial means through ill-gotten assets is not easy when considering the limited resources placed at your disposal. For while those involved in corruption can recruit top international lawyers and even launch media campaigns to bring down and accuse the government of witch hunting, you can easily find yourself at a disadvantage. But fight corruption, bring out the truth, and get those responsible to face the judicial finish. We have to keep doing for the sake of our children. The challenges we face in combating corruption call for a broad collaboration of agencies, stakeholders, experts, and citizens. We do this well, but we could always do it better. I look to every individual in this room today, as well as those watching and listening at home and at work around the Commonwealth, for help and support in that quest. We are all gathered for one reason: to come together as one family, united through common aspirations. That is, the fight against corruption and the battle we endure when corruption tries to fight back. I also wish to warmly greet our other international guests and partners and thank them both personally and on behalf of the people of Seychelles for helping us in the fight against corruption, money laundering, and other serious crimes. Without your help and support, the Seychelles could not have sustained our position in the Transparency International perception on Corruption Index as the 23rd least corrupt country in the world and the first in Africa. Yes, yes, it's another great achievement for our Commonwealth family. A decade on from the historic signing of the Commonwealth Charter, Seychelles is absolutely committed to that one voice in upholding the principles of the Commonwealth, the shared values and aspirations enshrined in the Charter, that is, peace and justice, tolerance, respect and solidarity, care for our environment and for the most vulnerable among us. We are grateful indeed for the support and assistance provided by the Commonwealth in areas such as education, health and economic development. As the Secretary General, my dear sister, once said, every dollar lost to corruption is a dollar lost to investing in a child's education, health care, or much-needed infrastructure. In Seychelles, every dollar lost to corruption is magnified in the lack of schools, hospitals, and other crucial facilities that make up for our fundamental human rights. In London last week, I had the honor to represent the people of Seychelles at the coronation of His Majesty King Charles III, the head of the Commonwealth. I was privileged enough to engage in many pre-coronation events and was hosted by His Majesty and the Secretary General at Marlborough House, the headquarters of the Commonwealth Secretariat. The Secretary General and I, along with other 55 leaders from the Commonwealth's member states, met to discuss issues of mutual interest. Collectively, we reaffirmed our determination in observing the principles of democracy, tolerance, rule of law, respect for human rights, and peaceful coexistence for the greater good of society and the betterment of our people. In the meeting, we spoke about initiatives to support the empowerment of young people, as this year has been designated the Commonwealth Year of Youth. 60% of the Commonwealth's population, that is 1.5 billion people, are under the age of 30, and youth empowerment is critical in realizing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It is therefore a joy to be with representatives of the Seychellois youth who this morning entertained us and who will also make their voices heard. Young people, I want to say to you, you are our lifeblood. You are the present and the future. As policymakers and leaders, we have a responsibility to ensure that you are placed at the center of development. Youth mainstreaming is essential to inclusive development outcomes, and Seychelles recognizes young people as key actors in our nation's progress. Last month, we relaunched the Seychelles National Youth Assembly, making history as the first democratically elected cohort. It was most interesting listening to those young girls and boys campaigning. And I tell you, they make better campaigners than a lot of our politicians locally. At least they know how to address issues and don't go on personal attacks. And at the first meeting, the 14-year-old speaker of the Youth Assembly, hailing from the second largest island of Prale, told the 24 members to, I quote, "Keep your ears to the ground and your eyes peeled." I think all of us gathered in this room should take note of what this young 14-year-old said to his fellow youth members of the Youth Parliament, and adopt the stance when it comes to rooting out corruption. As leaders in our offices within the Commonwealth, we have a moral obligation to offer each other and every individual a future replete with opportunities for personal development and growth. Delivering a future of prosperity for our youth and uniting Africa requires unwavering commitments to the ideals of mutual respect and shared responsibility. The Commonwealth, and in particular, Commonwealth Africa, provides us with a platform to collaborate and work towards the common good of our people by fighting back against corruption. And in preparing for this speech, I looked at the communique from the 12th Regional Conference held in Rwanda last year. You rightly agreed that corruption must be tackled more vigorously. You properly committed to stronger local, regional, and international cooperation. You promised to collaborate to enhance the capacity building of corruption investigators and prosecutors, and to support the speedy and unfettered repatriation of recovered assets. I challenge you over the next 4 days to once again look at that communique and consider honestly whether you delivered on what you signed. Seychelles is taking over the chair of the Regional Association. This is a big responsibility and a big challenge, but one which we relish. I would like to congratulate May on her appointment, well, on her designation as the new chair, as the new leader. And I want to tell her that we will support her in all her endeavors. And maybe it is interesting to note that May was appointed under the former administration. President Faure and I, as the leader of the opposition then, sat down after the Constitutional Appointments Authority had sent recommendations. We discussed and we came to a mutual agreement that May would be the best person. And when, under this administration, May's contract expired, I took it upon myself to respect the decision that was taken mutually under the last administration, and thus reappointed May as the chair of the Anti-Corruption Commission. So May, you have our full support, and we will encourage you to fulfill this terrible task. I mean, they say being president is tough, but I think your task is tougher than that of mine. Distinguished participants, in your discussions and drafting of the Seychelles communique, set ourselves a challenge. 1, please remember that corruption is not only about bribes. People, especially the poor, get hurt when resources are wasted or diverted. That's why it is so important to understand the different kinds of corruption that infect our society and develop smart responses. 2, give power and voice to the people. Suggest and create anti-corruption pathways that give your citizens relevant tools to engage in helping you identify priorities, problems, and find solutions. 3, cut out some of the red tape. Bring together formal and informal processes, government and non-governmental groups to change behavior and monitor progress. 4, use the power of technology. Here in Seychelles, we strive to build dynamic and continuous exchanges between key stakeholders: the government, our citizens and businesses, law enforcement, civil society groups, media, schools, and academia. Consider that everyone has a vital part to play. 5, get the incentives right from the start. Seek to align and promote anti-corruption measures with market, behavioral, and social forces. Getting the private sector to adopt integrity standards is a smart business decision, especially for companies interested in doing business with the World Bank Group and other development partners. 6, we all know sanctions matter. Punishing corruption is a vital component of any effective anti-corruption effort. Impunity, power, freedom, and money, please, where lawfully possible, take all these away from them. 7, act globally and locally. Keep us, citizens, engaged on corruption at local, national, regional, and international levels in line with the scale and scope of corruption. Make use of this incredible network that you have developed and the many platforms that exist for engagement. 8, look to build capacity for those who need it most. It is no coincidence that countries that suffer from chronic fragility, conflict, and violence are often the ones that have the fewest internal resources to combat corruption. Look amongst yourselves and identify ways to leverage international resources to support and sustain good governance. 9, finally, learn from each other by doing. Keep monitoring, evaluating, and sharing. Ask yourself what works well, what could be done better, and then what you would do differently next time. Adapt and make a difference. To everyone present, especially to the heads of the various anti-corruption agencies, I wish you all the very best for the conference, and I look forward to receiving the outcomes. But remember, you are in Seychelles. You are in paradise. And therefore, you've also got to make the most of paradise, breathe paradise, feel paradise, and enjoy paradise. So please, take time off, enjoy the beauty. And I know that the most important day for your conference will be the 4th day, when you will be going round. So enjoy yourselves, and it is indeed a great pleasure. And now, Dr. Corentin, I now appeal for the conference to be officially declared open. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, for doing us the honor of officially opening our conference. And now, I have the pleasure to invite the Executive Director of the Economic and Organized Crimes Office in Ghana, Mameya Tiwa Adodankwa, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Seychelles, Your Excellency, the Vice President, the Secretary General, I have a tall list, so I'll also associate myself with the protocols duly elaborated by the Commissioner of Anti-Corruption in Seychelles to say all protocols duly observed. Having said that, I want to recognize the Commissioner of Police, because I can associate myself, because I'm also a serving commissioner of the Ghana Police Service. First and foremost, I want to thank the Almighty God for the gift of life, and also granting us traveling mercies from our various countries to the land of paradise. For me as a Ghanaian, Ghana and Seychelles has a very a good bond, because in 1900, one of our great kings came to live here on exile, and he left an incredible mark here. And so from 1900 to today, Ghana and Seychelles has this family tie. And as a proud Ghanaian, I want to say I am happy to be home. Having the president and the vice president at an event means the importance the country attaches to these anti-corruption institutions. Mr. President, we are grateful to you for having us here in your beautiful paradise and also joining us for the opening ceremony. The Right Honorable, thank you for joining us in spite of your busy schedule. Last evening, she spent quality time with us where she listened to all the heads of the anti-corruption agencies one-on-one, responded to some of the questions, and also came out with some strategies that we can move our institution forward. We are very grateful to you. And to the Commonwealth Secretariat for always standing by us and putting these conferences together. And I can imagine how Dr. Cranton was putting pressure on those that you call midnight, and I know him very well. We are very grateful to you, to Madam Commissioner of Anti-Corruption Agencies in Seychelles. Thank you for putting this together. I know how it hasn't been easy, bringing all of us, sending emails, getting our contacts, getting our flight details and everything. Hasn't been easy. For some of us, we left our pictures and you requested. You never relented. And you have done all these things, and together we are here today. For all other dignitaries who have come here, our invited guests who have left your busy schedules to be here to join us for the opening ceremony, we are sincerely grateful to you. The choir, even though I don't understand the language, I couldn't stop tapping my feet. Very beautiful, we are grateful to you. And everybody, the hotel staff, it was difficult for some of us to wake up this morning. We had a very sound sleep. The serene atmosphere. In fact, we are indeed in paradise. And for the heads of anti-corruption agencies here, like the president said, let us share experience. Let us work together. What works for us? What is it that we can do better? And after 4 days or 5 days here, we will go back and re-strategize. Shape our strategy so that at the end of the day, when we meet again next year, we will say we have moved the institution forward and that we are doing things better than we did the previous years. If we have the media here, we are very grateful to you. It is the work that you do that will tell the world how we are putting our strategies together in the fight against corruption in our Commonwealth Africa. For everybody who played any role, we are sincerely grateful to you. And the 4th day, which is the most important for some of us, thank you for adding that one. And when we leave, most of us, I'm very hopeful, will come again. And for us Ghanaians, we will always come back home. Once again, Mr. President, Right Honorable, we are sincerely grateful to you for joining us this morning. And in my language, I will say, Medase. Thank you very much for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Executive Director. I would now like to invite Mr. Denis Joubert, the Deputy Commissioner of the Anti-Corruption Commission of Seychelles, who will be presenting a symbolic gift to the Secretary General in recognition of her support in the fight against corruption across Commonwealth Africa. Mr. Joubert. Thank you, Mr. Joubert. Thank you, Madam Secretary General. And to conclude the official opening this morning, I would like to invite to the stage all the heads of anti-corruption agencies. Please do join us on stage. I would also like to invite Madam Secretary General and finally the President of the Republic, Mr. Ramkalawan, for a souvenir photograph. Please, please. Thank you, Mr. President, Madam Secretary General, and thank you to all the heads of the anti-corruption agencies. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our opening ceremony for this morning. Please note that we will soon be taking a very short break, but the conference will continue with a short presentation by the Youth Against Corruption Group, Seychelles, and a special presentation entitled Returning Stolen Assets to Seychelles and the Government's Support in Fighting Corruption Through ACCS Funding by the Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Trade of Seychelles, Mr. Nadir Hassan. For now, I would like first to ask the delegates who would be joining us outside for a group photograph, and for the rest of our distinguished guests, please do join us for refreshments in the lobby. I thank you all, and I wish you a pleasant continuation. Good day. So please, as mentioned, our delegates, please join us outside for a souvenir photograph. All of the delegates.
all those who are outside, will they want to come in? Otherwise, we're going to close the door so that there will be no disturbances. I want to see everybody sitting. So for the next section, I'm going to call upon the chair from Uganda, who is chairing this first session, to come upstage and take one of the seats. We're going to have two presentations for this session. The first 15 minutes is going to have a short presentation. Youth Against Corruption group from Seychelles. They should get themselves ready. And then after that, we're going to have the Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Trade of Seychelles to give us a presentation on returning stolen assets to Seychelles, the government support in fighting corruption through the ACCS funding. So the chair for the session, will you come up stage and have a seat whilst we call upon the youth against corruption, if they are ready. So that I'll hand over to the chair. The chair, you have to come to this side when the youth people come in and take proceedings. So please, come this way. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is James Onying Penyui. I'm a Director, Research, Education and Advocacy at the Inspector of Government, which is the Anti-Corruption Authority in Uganda. My boss asked me to chair this session. She is Honorable Betty Kamia Turome. She's going to be presenting, and so she delegated me to chair this. I want to associate myself to the protocols which were well stated here in the morning, and because of time, would just want to go straight in the business of today, which is sharing our experiences so that we can learn from each other. I'm here to chair a presentation, and the first presentation is coming from Youth Against Corruption group. This is a group which is formed after another prevention activities of ACCS and involve engagement with students, with all the institutions, schools in Seychelles, and they're here to share their experience. Just a short one, 15 minutes. Thereafter, we are going to have another presentation from the minister, but I will come back and actually introduce the ministers in full. For now, I would ask the youth who are already here, waiting to share their experience with us. You're most welcome.
So thank you, Chair. Good morning, and again, a very warm welcome to all invited guests. I am Ms. Manuela Wao. I'm the Prevention Manager of ACCS. So as an institution, the ACCS places a lot of emphasis on the importance of our youth engagement in anti-corruption awareness and education in Seychelles, especially in our prevention unit. Our youth is the heart of the future. They are the key to a world rid of corruption, a world of equal opportunities to all, where integrity is instilled in them at a very young age. Today, we have the pleasure of welcoming Mr. Jean-Luc Barra, one of our Youth Against Corruption ambassador, who will do a short presentation. Then it will be followed by a short video. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jean-Luc Barra. I'm from Youth Against Corruption, and I'll be doing this presentation with you here today. So the aim for the program is to be a role model for other young people, to instill good values in our youth, instill discipline in their daily undertakings, able to distinguish right from wrong, which is a challenge most of them are facing, able to detect the forms of corruption at school and in their community as well, know where to report on issues of corruption and other related matters affecting our youth, and to get the youth to support the country in the fight against corruption. Corruption. What is corruption? Classification of corruption. How can we identify it? The types of corruption. Why corruption matters, where can it be found, how does it start, and what can the youth do to stop corruption. So these are some of the topics we'll be exploring here today. So what is corruption? Corruption is the abuse of power for private gain, where power is a position of trust conferring authority to act on behalf of an institution. In general, corruption is a form of dishonesty or criminal activity undertaken by a person or an organization entrusted with a position of authority, often to acquire illicit benefit. Some classification of corruption. We have grand corruption, which involves a huge amount of money. Money is diverted through contract inflation, kickbacks, falsification of records, fictitious projects, and so on. It involves top-level management staff, top government officials, and so on. Amounts diverted at this level runs into millions, and it contributes into impoverishing the masses. Next up, we have petty corruption, in other words, street-level corruption. This includes routine acts of corruption carried out by civil servants, law enforcement officers, artisans such as motorists, market vendors, etc., who deal in small-scale activities and small amounts of money. However, it gives the nation a bad name because of the high prevalence and perversion of due process in official process. How can we identify corruption? Corruption is very hard to observe because the people doing corrupt practices are so discreet as to not be caught. So we'll see some types of corruption. We have bribery, which is the crime of giving someone money or something else of value, often illegally, to persuade that person to do something you would want. We have fraud, the crime of getting money by deceiving people. Nepotism, the practice among those with power or influence of favoring relatives or friends, especially by giving them jobs. Now, last but not least, we have extortion, which is the practice of obtaining something, especially money, through force or threats. An example of this is blackmail. We see it worldwide. It's very common. So why corruption matters? Corruption is the key element of economic underperformance and the major obstacle to poverty alleviation and development. Damage to institutions' reputation, financial loss, disadvantage to honest and hardworking individuals. Disciplinary actions may affect relationships with family, friends, and of course your colleagues. It's a waste of taxpayer funds, lower productivity, and damage to one's morals. So where can it be found? Where can corruption be found? Corruption can be found at school, bribery during exam papers, in our community, blackmailing, at work, commission for illicit services, and nowadays oftentimes we see it at home. So I think it's safe to say that corruption is everywhere. So how does it start? Corruption starts when policies and procedures are absent, policies and procedures are unclear or not effectively enforced, communication and reporting guidelines are unclear, supervisions are lacking, and accepted ethical values are not promoted enough in the world. Growth to acceptance of manipulation and favoritism as a way of life as well. So what can the youth do to stop corruption? First of all, the youth can be informed about corruption. Do not engage in corruption. Do not protect, assist, support, or vote for a corrupted person. Support anti-corruption agencies. Give information about corruption. Join pressure groups and be vigilant, which is something that we really emphasize on them nowadays, just to get them to be more active and partake. Good personal attributes and behaviors. Be a person of integrity. Be honest. Be trustworthy. Be transparent. Always respect the law. Respect the rules and regulations of your institution, especially the youth who are in school. Be responsible for your actions, whether it is good or bad. A quote that I really like is wrong, even if everyone's doing it, and right is right, even if no one is doing it. I think it's time we stop, how can I say this? Excuse me. We just need to stop it. Let's fight against corruption. We have, let's stop corruption. Let's act now. Refuse to pay or accept a bribe. Someone offers you money to do something, you know it's wrong, just don't do it. Use your voice, ask for receipt, and contact supervisors. Some of the guidelines just to avoid corruption as well. Discuss with fellow students. Take pictures and videos. Everybody has a phone nowadays. Let's use it in a positive way. Write down name and number. Or report corruption to the police, which is something we encourage. We have some supporting structures as well. We have the legal structure, the penal code, constitution. We have the administrative structure, where we have the Anti-Corruption Commission, the Policy Service Bureau, the legislature, the judiciary, and ombudsman. And we also have an NGO that we've partnered with, the Transparency Initiative Seychelles. In conclusion, you must be the change you wish to see in the world. A quote by Mahatma Gandhi, which I'm personally and quite fond of. Let's come together. Let's start today, right here, right now, to stop it. Know that you're not alone. Let's come together to fight corruption. Please share the information you've learned here today with your family and friends. Let's help make our country, the world, a better and safer place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Youth Against Corruption. A round of applause against.
Youth Against Corruption is our hope for a better future.
You can agree with me.
It's a platform for our voices to be heard and for us to be respected and valued. This is why I joined the Youth Against Corruption. Thank you.
Corruption robs us of all our good values and principles that we live by. It affects the younger generation because they grow up without good values and without knowing the difference between right and wrong.
It robs us of opportunities due to favoritism and inequity, which causes poor productivity and causes misdirection. Many are given advantages without merit, such as projects, scholarships, internships, and much more.
What is corruption in my eyes as a young person? Corruption robs us of our education. Lack of teachers and time wastage prevents us from gaining education we need to progress. How can we gain education without teachers? And how can we learn in an empty class?
We matter. We are worthy because we are tomorrow's leaders, tomorrow's future. So if we want to see a world free and rid of corruption, then let us start at home with our young ones as of today.
Thank you.
So as I was saying, you can agree with me that ACCS did a very good service to empower the youth to know what is corruption, to know what is the causes of corruption, and what need to be done. And I think this is a great move in the fights against corruption. We have a second presentation which is coming from the Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Trade in Seychelles. The topic is returning stolen assets to Seychelles and the government's support in fighting corruption through ACCS funding. Minister Nadi, hope the pronunciation is correct, Asan was appointed the Minister for Finance, Economic Planning and Trade on the 3rd November 2020. He studied at the University at Manchester from 2001 to 2005 and holds a bachelor degree bachelor degree with honor in international business, finance, and economics. And from 2012 to 2013, at the University of Stirling, and holds a master degree in banking and finance. Upon his graduation, Mr. Hassan joined the Policy and Strategy Department at the Ministry of Finance as a policy analyst, and thereafter got promoted to senior policy analyst. After 2 years at finance, that is 2005 to 2007, he moved to the central bank at Seychelles, so CBS, as a public debt officer, and shortly transferred to finance service supervision as the finance service analyst from 2007 to September 2009. He rose through the rank as a senior finance service analyst, director, and ultimately head of the department. After 14 years at CBS in July 2020, he moved to Cable and Wireless Seychelles as the Chief Digital and Risk Officer. Mr. Hassan was part of the finance team that initiated discussions to start the process of joining the World Trade Organization and also trade agreement with European Union. He also initiated the process for significant liberalization of tariff. He was on CBS technical team working on the 2008 economic reform program, which was supported by International Monetary Fund. Mr. Hassan also formed part of the numerous high-level committees at the central bank responsible for monetary policy and implementation, international reserve investment, international reserve investment management, risk management, and human resource policy development. He was the chairman of the Financial Sector Development Technical Committee at CBS and was vice chairman of the Southern African Development Community, SADC, subcommittee on banking supervision. Minister Hassan will be speaking to us about returning stolen assets to Seychelles and the government support in fighting corruption through funding ACCS. join me to welcome the Minister Hassan for most welcome.
The Commonwealth Secretary General, the Right Honourable Patricia Scotland, Head of Public Sector Governance in the Commonwealth Secretariat, Dr. Roger Karanteng, fellow ministers, all protocols observed. It is my pleasure to address you today on the subject of corruption and stolen assets. In doing so, I will focus on the experience of the Seychelles. Like many other countries, we have not been spared the impact of corruption and its consequences for our development. It is a sad reality that millions and billions of dollars of state resources are lost every year due to corrupt practices. These are resources which should have been used to invest in schools, hospitals, roads, social programs, and housing for our people. According to the UNDP, of the approximate 13 trillion US dollars that governments spend on public expenditure, up to 25% is lost to corruption. From 2000 to 2015, the illegal money leaving Africa amounted to $836 billion, about 3.7% of its GDP. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can observe, these figures are astronomical and worrying. Hence, it is imperative that, one, we do whatever we can to stop the scourge of corruption, and two, we put our efforts in returning the stolen assets to the people. If I may quote the executive director at the time of the UNODC, Gada Fathi Wali, who said, "Restoring proceeds of corruption to their rightful owner is a development imperative. By returning corrupt funds, we can mobilize resources to reduce poverty and achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. It is also the right thing to do." Seychelles, being a small, vulnerable island state, we have minimal resources to cater for socio-economic development. Therefore, it is imperative that corruption in the public service cannot be tolerated. As a small island state with limited avenues of generating wealth, every little cent lost to malpractices has a huge impact on the socio-economic plan of the country. Our population should be aware that corruption affects them directly, as money being siphoned off to individuals, if funds lost that could otherwise be used to buy medication, provide social safety net, or invest in infrastructure. Ladies and gentlemen, it is for that reason that in 2016, the ACCS was formed. As can be expected, given that this was a new concept in Seychelles, it did not lead to instant results or successes. In fact, in its first 5 years, no cases were brought by the ACCS for prosecution, even though there were numerous allegations. This was as a result of lack of resources, lack of funding, expertise, experience, and other forms of support. It is only in 2021 that the ACCS made its first arrest, and it relates to one of the biggest corruption cases seen in the country, and for that matter, in the region. So, what changed? Fundamentally, the new administration ran on a manifesto of eliminating corruption and bringing back stolen assets. Hence, the political will and support was there. With that, we also saw a significant increase of 580% in the funding of the ACCS from the budget. Yes, that's a five-fold increase in financial resources made available to the ACCS. And I know it is still not enough. Whenever I discuss with the commissioner, the question of additional funding comes up. It is important to highlight that to be able to successfully conclude a complex corruption case, significant resources are required. From getting the intelligence, hiring expert investigators and researchers, and not forgetting ensuring that we have the necessary legal resources when the case is prosecuted. Not to forget, communication specialists are also required, as often powerful and influential figures involved in corruption, when being investigated, will resort to a campaign of disinformation to impact on the credibility of that investigation. So, ladies and gentlemen, all of this requires significant funding, especially for small states. So for ministers of finance, this can often be a tricky situation. How does one justify the extra funding, especially at a time of great fiscal restraint? One has to consider the potential return on investment in order to justify the expense being made. With the support through the budget, we have also observed many international partners willing to help and assist the ACCS with technical expertise in order to help with very complex cases. If I may speculate, it is when the government is willing to support the ACCS, this no doubt gives confidence to other partners to also provide assistance. Just to give some examples, special relationships have been developed with UK law enforcement agencies, such as the UK National Crimes Agency, the Home Office, the Crown Prosecution Service, as well as other law enforcement agencies, such as the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Australian Federal Police, with assistance given from many other donors, such as the European Union, UK Foreign Office, and the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime. Let me emphasize how important it is that for any country that is serious about fighting corruption and bringing back stolen assets, needs to have very close working relationship with other law enforcement agencies in other countries. Given the complexities of returning stolen assets, especially the fact that in many cases, these assets have been transferred out of the country, it is critical that the ACCS, together with local authorities, engage to have mutual legal assistance agreements with partner countries. In line with that, discussions have started with a number of countries over asset sharing agreements as well. The Seychelles authorities, together with the ACCS, has already embarked on making this happen. Government support should also not be limited to only budget support. In fact, strong laws need to be enacted and existing one needs to be strengthened. In the last few years, we, the government, supported the ACCS through amendments of various laws, more specifically the corruption laws, the introduction of beneficial ownership register, and the AML law, amongst many others. These amendments have given more tools to the ACCS to deliver on its mandate. Distinguished delegates, one point of caution. Government supporting anti-corruption agencies does not mean influencing the work of the agency. It is important that once funding is secured, the government does not get involved in investigation. This is important to ensure the independence of the agency and its credibility. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, I want to make the following summary. First, if countries in Africa are to reach their development potential and achieve the SDGs, it is imperative that the level of public corruption is drastically reduced. Moreover, it is also critical that much more effort is put in returning stolen assets. To achieve that, our countries need the support of the international community, as the process to return stolen assets can often be complex and long. The means to hide the asset are indeed complex and opaque. Hence, an international effort is required to achieve success. Secondly, domestically, governments have to support the anti-corruption agencies with the necessary resources. Investigating corruption cases and tracing the stolen assets and prosecuting these cases require advanced expertise. Thirdly, government needs to ensure that laws are strengthened to ensure anti-corruption agencies have the tools to do their jobs. Finally, let me say, the job that is done to fight corruption is a noble and important one. We cannot let the cycle of corruption continue, or else our future generation will bear the consequences. We cannot and should not let that happen. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you'll agree with me, the minister did justice to the presentation. Among the things he actually stated is that we lose 25% of funding in corruption leakages. We need to do whatever we can do to save that leakage, and we need to recover the money. But he also cautioned us, when they are making decisions to fund anti-corruption activities, they look at return on investment. What is it you are saving before they can give you money? Because there are always competing needs for funding. It is our duty to make sure that we actually give them the reasons to actually give us funding to do our activity. We have some 5 minutes for questions and discussions. The floor is opened. You're welcome. You can take. Anybody with comments, questions? Please, can we take the mic down? It is good to know each other, so you can tell us your name and the country before you give your questions or...
Okay, good afternoon. My name's Daniel Murphy. I'm the head of the International Anti-Corruption Coordination Centre based in the UK National Crime Agency. And we've been working with the ACCS for about 5 years now, and I'd like to thank you and note the increase in funding is helping them with their efforts in country. And we will continue to help and support and collaborate with the ACCS. My question really was, you mentioned around asset repatriation. You said that you are discussing around bilateral asset sharing agreements. Do you see that as the way forward, or would you prefer to use UNCAC principles for asset return, whereby there's less incentive to lose a cut of the money? So under UNCAC, obviously you're aware that assets are returned usually in their entirety rather than having to rely on bilateral asset sharing agreements. Thank you.
Any other person with comment or question? Before you can answer, we can take 2 or 3. It's another one. Can we have a mic down there?
Hi, I'm Lisa Osofsky. I'm the director of the Serious Fraud Office from the United Kingdom, and we cover the top tier fraud, anti-bribery, corruption, and money laundering offenses in our jurisdiction. And I wondered, I heard a fabulous introduction of you. You've got a lot of private sector experience. I wondered if you might share with us how you engage with the private sector as well in your work to ensure that there's support for anti-corruption efforts. Thank you.
Any other? There was a hand this side.
I'm also coming from the economic and organized crime. With me is my boss, Mami Atiwa. In Ghana, the Economic and Organized Crime Office is also leading the front in the recovery of stolen assets. We even have in place a working document to guide our conduct in this direction. And like my other colleague from the Office of the Serious Fraud Office UK said, we will also be interested in sharing with Seychelles experience and then also maybe picking 1 or 2 things with them. This is just what I want to add.
Thank you. Any other? Or we? This one, Malawi.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister, for your very enlightening presentation. You've mentioned about the increased funding to the Anti-Corruption Commission Seychelles, but considering that anti-corruption fight is not a one-man show, meaning it's not only the Anti-Corruption Commission of Seychelles that is involved in the whole thing. Has the same been emulated with other stakeholders within the anti-corruption community in Seychelles? Okay.
Thank you, Nicole Tirant, the Ombudsman of Seychelles. I'd like to take up with my sister's last comment. It's more of a comment than a question with regard to the funding. Institutions like the Office of the Ombudsman, and I think it was brought out by the youth of Against Corruption, rules and regulations are the most important element of public service. And following up rules where they exist and creating new rules where they don't is probably the hardest and most difficult task of the Office of the Ombudsman, ensuring that that this process is done. So I feel that when we talk about the Anti-Corruption Commission, we mustn't forget that there are other institutions that are equally strategically important to the bigger picture of addressing corruption, and one of these is obviously I'm speaking on behalf of my office. So it's a little prod, if you like, in the direction of the Minister of Finance, that competing requirements, yes, must be taken into account, and returns on the investment may not always be immediate or visible, but they are there, and we do need to put that in perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think because of time, we need to stop here. I know we can continue engaging. I would call Hassan to respond to those comments, most of them, and then we see how we can close this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you all for those very tough questions. On the first question on asset sharing or going through the more multilateral direction. I would maybe resist from giving a specific answer on that one, but what I would say, the bottom line for government is we need to assess, together with relevant agencies, which method ensures that most of the stolen assets are returned to the people of Seychelles. So that's got to be the fundamental in terms of which route we decide to go through. We should explore all these options, but at the end of the day, that decision will be based on the one that returns the most to the people of Seychelles. Most of the question has been around the issue of whether it's purely an engagement with ACCS in terms of support and funding, and with regards to other stakeholders, such as the private sector or other agencies. And like I said in my speech, the issue of funding is always a tricky one, because as Minister of Finance, especially in recent times, when I assume office, we've had to provide funding at a time of fiscal restraint, because in terms of the impact of the COVID pandemic and the impact it's had on the economy and the budget, the government had to decide in the immediate short term where's the priority of funding. And I think that priority has been set out in terms of, and I mentioned that, what's that return on investment initially? Because it's by bringing back the stolen assets that will give the government additional resources to then be able to support the other agencies which their impact, like the Ombudsman said, might not be seen in the short term, but in the longer term. So bottom line is very much an issue of prioritization. And I fully agree. The issue of fighting corruption is not just an ACCS issue. It's a national issue. And the lady from the Serious Frauds Unit in the UK mentioned the private sector. Yes, the conversation is one which should be of a national nature, not just with a few stakeholders, because corruption impacts on all of us. And in our case, in terms of the work we do as government, is to engage with the Chamber of Commerce, and I know the work that ACCS does also links up with the private sector in terms of creating the awareness, the collaboration with the private sector. So it's the point that I'm trying to make is that this is a national issue, and we should not be looked at purely from a ACCS perspective or just government. One very important change that took place about 5 years ago was the setting up of the National AML-CFT Committee. And I think that was really to bring about the coordination with different agencies, just not in the issue of corruption, but generally financial crimes, other financial crimes. So that's also an important thing that happened in the Seychelles. And since then, we've seen a lot more interagency collaboration happening. On the issue of sharing of experiences, I welcome the comment from the gentleman from Ghana. I think the effort to return stolen assets, like I said, is one that should be taken at an international level, because one country on its own will not be able to do it. It's got to take an international effort, sharing experiences, sharing information, and collaborating on investigation and tracing of assets That's the only way that we're going to be able to win that fight. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I believe the Minister has done justice. We are going to applaud him the Ugandan way. And in Uganda, when we say Asante Sana, we just clap like this. Okay? Just twice in Uganda. So, Asante Sana. Thank you.
I think the chairperson also. I think you all bear with me that the chairperson also deserves a clap in Asante Sana. That's a good one. On this note, I think we have all earned our lunch. On the program, we have lunch break, which is supposed to be 1 hour. So we're going to stick to the 1 hour lunch break. I don't know where the lunch is going to be. I don't know where we had the breakfast. Is that where the lunch is? I believe. Of course, you'll be directed. So we're going to break now and resume in 1 hour's time. What is the time now? I don't have my watch here. 12:13. He said it's 12:13. So that means 1:13 on the dot. It's no, we have something called African Mean Time. No, not that one. African Mean Time is a range. This one is on the dot. 1:13 we should be here, so that we can finish early and then enjoy our evening session. Because if we don't finish what is on the program, the evening session, the enjoyment part, we're not going to have it. So let's go quickly to have our lunch break, and then we come back at 1:13. Thank you very much.